Hi, so I'm back in hand therapy again, and I wanted to talk about that in case there's anyone who's wondering what to expect. In the UK, we can be put on a waiting list for several years, and it gives you a lot of time to think and to wonder. And so I thought I'd do this video just in case anybody is in a similar boat, or they have an appointment coming up and they want to know what they might expect. Now, hand therapy and hand physio is a huge bracket or umbrella of things. There's so many things they can do. So when I was first in hand therapy, we did a few things. The main thing we worked on were physio exercises. I'm not going to run through any of the exercises in this video just because there's so many things that can go wrong with your hands, so it's probably not worth me going through exercises for one or two joints. But with physio, that is a lot of what they do, will be exercises, strengthening the joints and the muscles, tendons and ligaments and everything like that. So it will be like hand movements in different ways. You can use, a bit like on your body where you'd use like a resistance band to strengthen it. On your hands, you can use tiny resistance bands, but they can also, you also can just use like a hairband. So I remember when I was first in hand physio, we were using like an elastic band or a hairband. So that's one way that they can treat injuries and problems with the hands. And they also recommended me that time to get some of these specific hand braces for the joint that I needed. I have a video all about which joint this is for, so I will link that up there somewhere. You kind of have to work within the means of the place that you go to, so that wasn't actually at a hospital, it was just at the physio place on campus. So they told me to buy this rather than giving it to me, they just told me to buy it. So that was my first my first set of hand physio appointments. And then fast forward to now, the place that I've been going has, it's almost like a hand workshop where they have loads of materials and loads of braces and things that they can give you when you're there, as well as therapeutic techniques. We'll go for that. It's in a hospital, and so it can accommodate a lot more. And as I say, you walk in and it almost looks like an inventor's workshop. They've got all of these like braces and splints on a wall, and there's loads of them and loads of different types, so we'll get into that a bit now. So yeah, I'm not sure, but potentially the difference is that at my last physio, we were hoping to prevent me getting worse. We thought maybe it would just be like an injury and it would be treatable, whereas this time around I've actually got deformities in my hand, and it's recognition that this is a long-term thing which is going to have to be managed in a different way, and a few exercises actually aren't going to be enough for me, and in some cases could be worse. So that's why I've been sent to this place now, where in my first appointment they made some splints for my worst joints. For a couple of my worst joints is probably more accurate, because your appointment is only so long, so we couldn't do them all in one appointment. So we made this oval 8 splint, and how this was made, it starts as a sheet, like a sheet of paper. They cut it into a little like long oval shape. Then they used a hole punch looking thing, punched 2 holes in it, and I thought they were going to attach string or something, like I didn't really know how it was going to work. But actually what they do is they put that, it's like plastic, they put this plastic in a hot water bath, and it makes it soft and malleable but also stretchy. And that was the thing I didn't know. I knew it was going to be mouldable. This is called a thermoplastic splint. So I knew that they would be moulded with heat, but I didn't know that they would be so stretchy, because when she hole punched it, it was a tiny little hole, and I thought there was going to have to attach something to that. I didn't know that it would just be stretched, and those little holes would eventually become like the big holes for my finger. So it was really cool. This probably took maybe 6 or 7 minutes to make, starting from just a little bit of plastic. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then the next one we made in that same appointment was this one, and it has Velcro. This one maybe took 10-15 minutes to make. And again, this blue part is the plastic, so it starts as a plastic sheet. Cut it with scissors, put it in this hot water bath, it becomes malleable. Then they bring it back over to you, mould it onto your hands, make any adjustments and add the Velcro. And I thought that was really cool because when I was leading up to this appointment, I did know that I was going to have splints made because that was explained to me that that's what I needed. I thought that I was going to have my hands measured and then I would collect them at the next appointment. I didn't know that I would just be entering this workshop thing and then they would just make it in 10 minutes. I thought that was really, really cool. And for me, at the place that I went, they deal with the whole hand and the whole wrist, and I could see that there's a million different types of splints that they can make, and it is very unique to each person. So some of the splints they're making, it might be the first time they've made that type of splint, and it doesn't mean they're inexperienced, it's just because they've made maybe 200 other types and not this type. So when we first made this one, we had one edge rounded and the other edge wasn't rounded, and then I went away, saw how I got on with it, and this ended up cutting into my hand quite badly, this raw edge. EDS makes any injury, for me, it makes any skin injuries look so much worse than they are. And then at my next appointment, I did know that she could adjust it. I thought she was going to use scissors. Sorry, I just got cut off and the last 8 minutes got deleted. So I'll try and pick up from where I left off. I think I was talking about this being adjusted. How they did it this time was with a hot air tool, so it looks like a hairdryer. And I don't know if I've explained this already, but they used the hot air tool to adjust this thermoplastic splint. And then, as well as making those thermoplastic splints, I was also taught some techniques. I don't know what clips I've lost, so I'm just going to have to So I'm just going to quickly go through those two techniques that I was taught. One was how to use this, it's called Coband compression wrap, and this is used for swelling of the fingers. You probably can use it for other things, but I was only taught how to use it for swelling of the fingers. At my appointment, that was where I had most of the swelling at the time. It's actually gone down a lot now with this, which is amazing. So how you do it is you wrap it you start at the top, leave the tip of the finger out, and you make sure that the wrap is overlapped like this. And a point that is on the leaflet they gave me, so for anyone, that's the thing, on here you have this constant battle of not wanting to give out medical advice because you don't want anyone to hurt themselves if they don't need these things or if it's not appropriate for them. But at the same time, I'm aware that a lot of people will need these things and would be very grateful for the advice. It does say here, when applied, this has its own compressive nature, so you must not pull the Coband tight around your finger because it compresses on its own anyway. So yeah, this is really good for compression and swelling of the fingers. It helps with drainage. And then another technique they taught me was called contrast bathing, which is where you would put your hands in warm water and then cold water, and you switch like that a couple of times. I think if I can find this leaflet online, I'm going to link it for you just in case that would be helpful for anyone. So this is for injuries specifically. With a lot of conditions, you can get repeated injuries even though there was no traditional big injury. It may be something small has triggered it, but you'd still treat it as an injury. If it was red and inflamed and swollen, then these techniques are still going to work for that. I'm not sure if I mentioned as well, but in my first set of hand physio appointments, that was when I was also taught how to use KT tape, which is a stretchy supportive tape. So that's another thing that you might be taught, particularly at physio clinics that are smaller and that don't have the thermoplastic workshop. I don't know what else to call it, the thermoplastic department. So some physio places will be a lot more focused on exercises, KT tape, and they may recommend you the braces to get rather than giving them to you. And then at my most recent appointment, I was given these supports to try. So this was at the same hand therapy and hand physio, I'm just going to call it the workshop one because that's what it looks like. It's in a hospital, but it's like a little workshop, and I just think of it as like a little medical inventor workshop. But even there, they gave these to me at my second appointment because I'd had some different injuries that they felt these would be appropriate for, and also these are helpful in some scenarios that this one isn't good for. But all this to say, some departments will have these like off the shelf things that they can give you as well. I didn't really know, like before I had these appointments, I just didn't know what to expect. Like the point is, maybe they will give you something like this. Another technique that a lot of you would have seen from TikTok or possibly on YouTube is the wax hand bath, but it's like a hot bath of wax, and you dip your hand in or use a ladle, put hot wax on your hand, wrap it with a bag or some sort of plastic wrap, and the heat and everything can help you with injuries that need to be stretched out, so particularly contractures and things like that. I do know that's another option. So that's pretty much my experience. I hope some of this is helpful to you in some ways, whether it was just interesting or if you got a couple of tips like using the Coband wrap or the contrast bathing or something like that, or just a heads up of what you can possibly expect. So yeah, I hope this was helpful, if not interesting, especially if you've been referred to thermoplastics, then that will be these, and it will be pretty similar to what we discussed here. And same with the physio exercises, it probably will be quite similar to what I discussed. So I hope you liked the video for whatever reason. Give it a like if you did, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!